two different kind of strategies.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for making it in. Everyone has some food. We got quite a bit left, so feel free to go get seconds or thirds, Graham, whatever, fourths, whatever you need. Got a bunch of chips. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, got to-go boxes back there for you. So thank you, as always, to our sponsors. If you have not met or worked with any of our sponsors, encourage you guys to reach out, say hello, meet them. They all do a great job. They all partner with us and are a big piece of our growth and a big piece of the service we provide to clients. So if you have any questions about them, let us know. The art of negotiating. And so I think what I titled this was Talk Less, Close More. So negotiating, there's a lot of misconceptions around negotiating. We're going to talk about a lot of them here in a second. But the only thing to get really good at this is to negotiate a bunch. And unfortunately, you have to be bad in the beginning to get good over time. So what I will ask is, I know we have a lot of people in here who have done a lot of deals, which is awesome. So if we touch on something and someone has a good story or example of something, please bring it up, because stories obviously embed stuff in your memory a lot better. I'm going to try to sprinkle in my own experiences. Most of this is written from my own experiences. So if someone has a good story, wants to elaborate or anything like that, please let me know. The more conversation experience, the better. So before we jump into it, oh man. It always does this. There's supposed to be two pictures right here. There's two pictures of two books right here that I recommend. A lot of the strategies that I think about or that we're going to talk about come from mostly two books. First one is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If you've not heard of that book, an incredible book. Yeah, you can see one. Okay. That's frustrating. Technology. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It is one of the only books about people, or one of the first books. There's a lot more about it now, but just how to deal with people. In real estate, I think one of the most valuable assets or characteristics you can have is to kind of be a little bit of a chameleon and work with any type of person. And the skills or the topics it touches on and how to win friends and influence people just kind of get you into how to get people to like you really quickly, how to get people to do things that they get them out of their own way a little bit. With sellers and buyers, sometimes you have to help get them out of their own way so that they can get to the finish line, how to influence people. So very good book. The second one is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. That got really popular the last 5 or so years. He was an FBI hostage negotiator. He's all over YouTube and stuff, really good stuff. But his kind of underlying point is you have to ask questions to figure out what's really going on. Very, 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 very big in real estate. So both really good books. I pull a lot of stuff from both of these. So a couple of things. You can't, first thing is, can't spell either. You can't make anyone do anything. We're dealing with adults. Our job is to just help influence and guide them through this situation that they only go through once every 10 years. It's an incredibly emotional process, buying or selling a home. Their judgment is clouded. They don't have experience. They don't have knowledge. It's your job to be the guardrails to this process, to this negotiation. So understand that I can't make anyone do anything, and don't take it personal. Whether you're on the receiving end of some bad news or delivering some bad news or whatever, I don't know if anyone can share this opinion with me, but the worst realtors are realtors that are representing a family member. Has anyone ever dealt with that? And they're taking it personal. Like, I have to crush you in this negotiation because it's my son or my brother or my sister. It's like you are doing your client a disservice. You are a third party that is supposed to guide them through this process. Do not take it personally. It's not your money. Don't tell someone not to do something or to do something, or I wouldn't, guide them, help influence the situation, but they are adults. You cannot make them do anything. Very important to understand. So one thing about, I'll touch on Chris Voss too. What I like about him is, I think it's either that or another book, I can't remember now, but basically talks about negotiating has partially unknown players. You don't know everything about everyone. Unknown circumstances. You don't know everything about the situation. And so the more questions you ask, the more you can define the rules to the game that you're playing. But when you step into it, you kind of know your buyer or your seller, kind of. You've talked with them, you've had conversations. You think you know about the property that you're selling or buying, or the other person on the other side, you know nothing about them. So the more questions you ask, the more you probe for information, seek to understand what's happening, not just tell people what to do, you're going to be a significantly better negotiator. Okay, basics of, so setting expectations. The basics of negotiating. Negotiations start the first time you meet someone. You need to start setting expectations, framing situations. You need to start letting them know what to expect before it happens. That's how you influence a situation. If you're trying to fix something after it's broken, you're backpedaling, you're behind the 8 ball, and it's significantly harder. We'll talk about it a little more in a little bit, but if you're trying to fix something after something's already blown up, you might have what's called commission breath, and that's where the seller or the buyer doesn't trust anything you say because they think you're just trying to save a deal. But if you set the expectation up front and tell them what's going to happen, then when the bad thing happens, you've already warned them about it. Does that make sense? So setting expectations is the number one thing you can do. It starts right when you first meeting. You need to start setting expectations and conditioning them to what's going to happen next immediately. Agents call me all the time in the middle of a negotiation or a TRR or something like that, and they're like, this has happened, they said this, what should I say to get it closed? You know, it's like, it's too late. The foundation's been laid for this negotiation. I'll tell you what I would say, but if you didn't prep it and set it up front, then what I'm gonna say might not make any sense or might not have any influence over the client or the other realtor, right? So everything you do from the very beginning is gonna make your job easier as you get closer to the actual negotiation. Number two, it's not us versus them. Again, inexperienced real estate agents or real estate agents that are too personal or close to the deal think in order for me to win, you have to lose. And that's not how negotiating is. Negotiating should be mutually beneficial to all parties involved. So we're gonna talk about that too. So this is important to understand when you talk about us versus them or winning and losing. There's 2 parts to every transaction. A lot of people don't think about this. 1, you have to agree to the negotiation. And then 2 is I have to execute on everything we agreed on. So if you bulldoze someone in the negotiation, they're going to make the execution of that contract extremely difficult, or they're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt, or they're going to look for shortcuts or whatever it might be, right? So if you get everything you want and you skip all the steps that make a successful negotiation, they're going to make the contract a nightmare, right? And you might have seen it before where a seller comes down so much in the beginning that they're like, I'm not doing anything on the TRR. Or same thing, buyer says, I already paid way too much. I want them to fix everything, right? So there's gotta be a middle ground. Everyone has to feel like they've won. We'll talk about that in a second. But there's 2 parts to a contract. What you agree, and then you have to do what everyone agreed to. And the execution of it is what can be a nightmare if you're not careful with the negotiation process. So 2 goals. This is how you can see if a negotiation was successful. Every negotiation has to have these 2 things. Everyone has to feel like they've been heard. Even if they don't get what they want, they have to feel like they've been heard, especially if they don't get what they want. And everyone has to feel like they've won. And you can do that by framing, setting expectations, and you have to sell what you're presenting to your clients. Your own excitement or depression over what's happening in the situation will bleed over into their excitement or depression in the situation, right? So if you get bad news, wait an hour before you call someone. Sleep on it before you call someone. Because if you call panicked, upset, or negative, they are going to absorb that every single time. So 2 things have to happen every single negotiation. Think about this. Every time you're negotiating, they have to feel like they've been heard, and they have to feel like they've won. Whether they have or not, whether they get what they want or not, these 2 things have to happen. If they don't, you're creating roadblocks for yourself in the execution part of the contract every single time. Okay, jumping through the 5 rules of negotiation. These are just kind of underlying things you want to keep at the front of your mind and make sure you never violate any of these. But these are just kind of the top 5 things that I think about whenever I'm doing any kind of negotiation. Or if I'm trying to figure out what I should say or do, I run it through these filters. The person who speaks first sets the tone. Who's ever got a call from a realtor and they're just pissed off already? Right? It's just like, I don't even want to receive your offer. I don't want to work with you. Like if you set the tone, if you are, I'll talk about this a lot. If you are neutral or negative mindset, and sometimes we just are, we're humans. We eat a lot of, hey brother, make sure before I start cussing, no kids walk in or anything. We're humans, we're emotional, we have bad days, good days. We receive a lot of negative information. So if you are neutral or negative, don't have seller conversations if you can avoid it, if you can wait and shift that mindset. You want to be in a positive mindset, because when your mind is more positive versus neutral or negative, your problem solving is significantly more advanced than if you're negative or even in a neutral mindset. So make sure you're in the right mindset to have these conversations with people. But the person who speaks first sets the tone. Make sure when you're reaching out or having your first conversation with a realtor, you got to be friends with that realtor. That makes everything so much easier. I've had terrible, terrible, terrible situations with buyers and sellers, but the agent and I are lockstep, and we got it done. And out of pocket, $20,000 roof, all kinds of all this stuff, and all the two pro real estate agents on the same side, get it done. So never us versus them, and always set the tone and be a friend to the real estate agent. Number 2, the person who asks the most questions determines the content and direction of the negotiation. So again, this helps you determine, we talked about unknown players, unknown circumstances. The more questions you ask, the more you know what's important to every party, the more you know where the hidden landmines are, and you know motivations so that you can, the arms you can twist to get people influenced to do what they need to do. Talk about that a little bit more too, but ask questions. Always seek to understand. I think I say that in another one. Seek to understand what's going on instead of just trying to work the problem. Understand why we're at where we're at. Never argue. No one has ever won an argument. I can't remember, Ben Franklin has a really good quote on this, but even if you win an argument, you lose, because now the other person's mad at you. So it's real easy when you're talking about repairs or talking about negotiations or whatever, money's involved, it's emotional. It's easy to say, the roof shouldn't cost that. We shouldn't have to do this. You shouldn't do this. This isn't required. Insurance doesn't need. Don't get in an argument. Doesn't matter. You will always lose. Even if you win, you always lose. Ask questions. Seek to understand. In your past, have you seen this? What's happened if we haven't done this? And you ask these questions, and it leads you to where you want to go eventually. Never ever get in an argument. And I've caught myself getting into arguments. And here's the other thing too. Has anyone ever argued with another realtor and you're like, oh, thanks, Amy. You changed my mind on that. You're not going to win. It's not like, don't argue. Figure out why they are there, what has got them thinking that way, and then what their goal is. Ask questions and come back to it. Never, 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 never argue. People do things for their reasons, not yours. This is really good. So this is from How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie talks about when he goes fishing. And he said, if you're going fishing, you're going to bait the hook to catch a fish. He doesn't like worms. He likes ice cream more than worms, right? But if I put ice cream on the hook, he's not going to catch any fish, right? And he's not going to eat any worms. But you have to bait the hook for what you want to catch. People care about their reasons, not your reasons. So anytime you're trying to convince someone to do something, frame it so that it benefits them or accomplishes their goal, right? And so an example might be, let's see, I wrote some good ones down. Oh man, I didn't write them down. Ask yourself, why would they care? So instead of saying, hey, I think we need to drop the price, it's, hey, showings have slowed down, and if you're still wanting to get this home sold before the end of summer, we might need to look at a price drop, right? That's different than you're overpriced. So think about what you want to tell them when you drop the price. Why would they care? Because they want to move by July. So that's how hold on. So rude. Go around. So remember, people do things for their reasons. It's so simple because, again, and we'll talk more about delivering bad news again in a little bit. All this kind of ties together. But whenever you need to deliver news, especially bad news or adverse news to what they want to hear, think, why do they care? And then frame it that way. So again, I think you should offer over list price. You don't want to say that because it's like, oh, Brett wants to spend all my money so he can get a commission. It's, hey, you said you needed this, this, and this. We've been looking for 3 months. This is the only one we've had. Let's look at maybe in order to increase our probability, we need to go above list, right? So I'm framing it based on what they need and want, and then I'm giving them my recommendation behind it. listen and reaffirm. So this is from Never Split the Difference. Again, people have to, I know, I'm just going to roll it up next time. I don't know why I do it every time. I'm going to do that really quick. Just going to move it. It's going to bug me. So listen and reaffirm. So remember, people have to feel like they've been heard in every single negotiation. So when someone says, I want this, or we need this, or we're asking for this, that's where you can say, okay, just to make sure I understand, sounds like you need this because of this. Yes. Okay, now that's simple as that. One, you're clarifying, you're a good communicator. Two, they're feeling heard instead of you just going to the next response. Reaffirm everything that your client or the other realtor always says. Number one way to do that is just so I make sure I communicate this clearly. Sounds like you guys are wanting X, or you guys need this because of X or Y or whatever it might be. When you can listen and reaffirm, they are going to feel heard, and then we can move forward. We might not get what we wanted, but at least I know you know what I need or what I want. So again, from Never Split the Difference, make sure you're asking questions, listening, and reaffirming. Okay, so I kind of broke this up into the next three sections. One is how do you negotiate with another realtor? Because the things you say, some tips and tricks are different. How do you negotiate with your seller? And then some tips and tricks to negotiate with a buyer. So I kind of break it up into agent, buyer, and seller. So the first one, get them on your side. Again, just kind of like I said earlier, no one wins an argument. If you are friendly with the real estate agent right off the bat, everything's going to go much smoother. If for some reason they don't like you right off the bat, it's going to go, I mean, we all have an agent that we've maybe done a deal with, and it's like, I don't want to work with them again. If they call you with an offer, it's like, oh God, here we go. And so the more, yeah?
What if you do that, and then as soon as you're under contract, you get the, okay, from this point on, here's my transaction coordinator.
Yeah, I was just talking to Shaq. We just had a deal, and it caused a huge issue.
Yeah.
Because now this person's doing the the TRR, and then an issue popped up, and this guy got back involved again when we haven't talked to him in 2 weeks.
Yes.
And there are big teams that do that. I think it's a terrible way to do it because there's too many disconnects in communication, and you can't build the rapport and influence people if you're getting switched off. If I'm a consumer, that would drive me insane. But there's some big teams out there that do that. I don't like it.
I just ignore the TC and call the person
Just
back.
go straight. Well, sometimes it's another agent. It's like I'm the TRR agent, which I've seen. I know 2 big team leaders that run it like that, and I think it's weird. But yeah, just blow up the, hey man, I'm talking to you. Yeah. This TC has no influence over the client. They're just delivering news, and they're probably doing a bad job at it. And how you deliver news to a client is everything. So,
Well, if there's
yeah.
3 people in the realtor notes telling you who to call and what situation, you know what's going to happen.
Yes. Yes. Unfortunately. Yeah. Were you on the same deal? So number one with realtors is you got to get them on your side. You got to be friendly. Anytime I call a realtor, I try to say something not real estate related before I start talking about real estate. Normally, just like get them to a new, because if we're working at TRR and they see Brett calling, okay, it's some bad news or whatever, right? They don't know. They're bracing themselves. Call and talk about anything other than real estate right away. Hey, sorry I couldn't get back to you. I was at my daughter's gymnastic thing, whatever. And it's, oh yeah, and we can say haha something, right? Just something not real estate. Get them off their guard, off their anxiousness, and kind of get them to a neutral or a positive mindset. Does that make sense? Very important. How you set and frame the conversation will make interactions more pleasant. If you just jump in, thanks for answering, Dan. God, I've been calling you 3 times. Hey, listen, I need the roof replaced. And it's like, what the hell? So
I have an interesting story. I had a deal one time, and I had the buyer, and we wrote this offer, some house down in Moore, and the disclosures had like a 15-year-old roof. And so the other agent calls me, and she's like, hey, the roof is actually fine. We've had a roofer come out, and they even had a report. It's like, okay, great. So I give it to my buyer. We write the offer. And then it got really weird because it was a VA buyer, and this other agent Googled me or something like that. And, I'm sure a lot of us are part of various Facebook groups and stuff. And I had gone on the Facebook group at one point and complained about some appraiser who had done a real bad job. And so then some time passes. They hadn't taken our offer yet. She calls me. She didn't call me. She sent me a wall of text.
yeah,
And is like, I'm really concerned about you and blah 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 because you were on this Facebook group and it was a VA deal and you have a VA offer for us and I don't want to get screwed because you don't like it. And I'm just like,
Oh gosh.
okay, I think we're just gonna maybe go find another one.
Yeah.
It's just like,
I need my phone.
Yeah.
It
We
was wild.
yeah we know 'em. Yeah, and so it's just like, again, the more you can keep it in a professional and pleasant relationship, like that was an appraiser. But it's like, we're working this buyer now. So yeah, it's when you have those like from there on, you didn't even want your buyer to buy the house anymore.
No,
It's like, what are you?
not it.
Yeah, what are you doing? So it's just like, it's silly. So get them on your side. Number one thing you have to do first. Even if you're calling, if your seller, hopefully if your buyer likes a home, part of your process is you call the listing agent right away and say, hey, we're interested, we like it. Don't accept any offers without letting me know. Some do and some don't. And but even then, you're building a rapport. You kind of want them to like you and want to work with you. That makes you, in the crazy 2020, 2021, 2020, early 2022 market, we were looking at we get 4 or 5 offers. I'm looking at the realtors. Like the offers matter, money matters obviously, but if they're all kind of the same, I'm looking at which realtor I think is going to get a deal done versus which realtor I don't think knows what they're doing. And so unfortunately, relationship with real estate agents, very important.
I had a lot of best friends during COVID on my listings.
A lot of what?
A lot of really good best friends.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they were so nice.
And good buyer agents know you
They
gotta
were so nice.
play the game a little
So
bit.
sorry.
Yeah.
Like, flip the switch.
Yeah, you got to play the game a little bit. So the next 2 things is kind of, let me see what I can do. So again, you never want to tell someone like, that's a terrible offer, because you're making them mad. It's not necessary. It's not getting us any closer, even if it's a terrible offer. What you want to do is kind of anchor that real estate agent so that they can anchor, give a positive anchor to that buyer. So if they give us a low offer, they say, okay, I appreciate the offer. Let me see what I can do. Give them a little bit of hope, because hope's going to reel them in, right? If they submit a terrible offer and they know it's terrible, they don't, they're just like seeing what happens. Give them hope, reel them in. It vests them with the property more, right? So let me see what I can do. Even if it's a good offer, this is great, really appreciate it. Let me get with them. Let me see what I can do. So you're kind of anchoring them to like a neutral mindset, not saying this is not going to work, or I've already. I've had agents say they've already declined an offer at this before. And I'm like, are you going to submit it? Or like, what do we talk? What do you, that doesn't matter to me. Submit my offer. That was weeks ago or months ago or whatever. Submit my offer. Let's work my offer. I don't say that because I'm very polite and professional, but she's hurting herself and her client by just stopping the negotiation. Sellers always come down further. Buyers always go up higher. Like, just let's work the deal. So get them to like a neutral mindset. Let me see what I can do. This is great. Really appreciate the offer. This is good. Wait, time is your friend. So, when was someone who bought a house recently? Anyone bought a house recently? Okay. It's emotional. It's scary. You make an offer and you're like, oh, they're gonna accept it. Oh, should I have gone up a little bit? Oh, what's gonna happen? Or if a seller counters it, oh, maybe we should have just taken it. What if they walk away? What if they go find another house? They're anxious. The longer you can make them anxious and let them stew in their decision, the more willing they're going to be, flexible they're going to be to make another decision when a counter comes back. So unless we're in a hot market, unless it's multiple offers, less circumstances require, I'm waiting full 24 hours until I respond to everything. Again, unless I think this first day on the market, be fast, right? Multiple offers, be fast. But normal house, set that for 50 days, we make an offer, whatever, it's like everything's 24 hours. I want everyone to think about their decisions long and hard. And then when they come back and you start getting texts from your client, have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? That's when we're waiting and we're waiting. Chris, I've gotten those messages. So we're waiting and waiting. And then when something finally comes back, they're just excited to have a response. And they're more willing and flexible in their decisions at that point. So time is your friend, unless it's not, unless it's multiple offers, first day on the market, that kind of thing. But standard, generic house, 50 days on the market, 30 days, whatever, you've got time. Work it. Time is your friend. Realtors will repeat everything you say. So use this to speak directly to their client. So I use this all the time. This is very important. It's tough to negotiate. This is kind of one of the biggest problems with the new NAR stuff was I have to negotiate with if I'm a buyer agent, I have to negotiate with the seller. I don't get to talk to the seller. So how can I negotiate something if I can't talk to them? So it's very difficult. But when you can use this tool, average real estate agents that don't do a tremendous amount of transactions or a tremendous amount of negotiating, they are not very good at it, and they just repeat everything you say. I have agents that even screenshot and send my conversation to their clients, and this is what they said. And so if you do that, don't do that. Control the information that flows to your client. But we have agents that will just repeat everything you say. So you can put bugs in their ears by talking through their real estate agent. In a situation like that might be something like, hey, here's my offer. We wanted to get something to you first, but we're also looking at the house down the street, and if we can't get a deal done, we kind of want to move on to the one down the street. That realtor's gonna be like, oh no, I have to tell my seller that, so they'll hurry up, and it creates some motivation, undue motivation. That agent probably shouldn't have relayed that information. Let them make their decision. But you can put stuff in their ear, put bugs in their ear by just telling them things that you want the seller to know that's going to influence them in your direction. Does that make sense? And you can do it a million different ways. We're talking about repairs, talking about negotiations, whatever. But most realtors will just take what you say, try to write around and tell it to them, whether it benefits their client or helps their client in the negotiation or not. So if you have something that you can help influence or leverage, tell it to the agent, and they'll inadvertently, most of the time, turn right around and tell it to their client. Same thing if you're a listing agent and we're working a TRR, we can't get it done. It's like, yeah, I mean, they're just kind of firm because they have two other buyers that are, or another buyer that might be interested in coming in if this doesn't work out. So that's kind of why they're not very flexible. Well, they're going to turn around and say, hey, they're not flexible. They're going to sell it to someone else if we don't do it, right? And again, that doesn't benefit anyone. It helps us put our leverage on the buyer or on the seller. Does that make sense? So use that to communicate directly through the agent to the other client. Not always, but 90% of the time, the agent's going to turn around and repeat what you say.
Brad, what are your thoughts on if you've got a buyer who is kind of in analysis paralysis, where they don't really have a sense of urgency, they've missed out on a couple of offers, but they keep wanting you to present them, and you say like, hey, if we're going to do this, we need to move slower, you need to take action, but they're kind of stuck in their head, or they just...
So, yes, so there's a couple things there. I kind of talk about that right here. I'll jump down to this one. So write the offer. So sometimes clients, they're nervous, but normally that's driven by their fear of the next step. That's normally or if they're an engineer, sometimes engineers just don't make decisions. So normally they're like, I don't know, like if I like it, I don't know what's next. Do I have to give you $300,000 right now? Like, I don't know what's next. So normally by setting expectations, walking through the process, you can alleviate a lot of that. But like I had a client, so this is kind of what this bullet point, I had a client would like a house, say, let me think about it. Next day, send me 3 other houses. Find a house they like, let's think about it, send me 5 other houses the next day. And so I was new, so I just did it. I just ran around, like showing houses. I was happy to have a client. And finally, my mentor was like, next time he says, I like you, let's think about it. Force him to write an offer then, like, and not force him, but, so the idea is, what price would you buy this like right now? And it was $300,000 house. Like, if they came in at $250,000, I'd buy it right now. Throw $250,000 at them. I know they're gonna say no. Everyone knows they're gonna say no, but it gets them down the field a little.
Practicing that.
Yeah, exactly. Now he knows what the paperwork's like. He wrote me the earnest check. He's done these things. He knows the next step. After that, we wrote like 5 offers. He's a terrible buyer. We didn't buy anything. But after he wrote that offer, we wrote like 3 other offers that next week, and they're all terrible. But it was just there was a bunch going on with that buyer. But just move them down the line a little bit. So that's why I say just write the offer. And what I say is, at what price would you buy this right now? And they'll give you a terrible offer. Write it. But now we have something to work. And as a listing agent, I'd rather have something to work than nothing, right? And as a buyer agent, I'd rather have something to work. So just write the offer. The other thing is, so these two kind of answer your question. Looking at too many houses. Newer agents are worse at this because they don't have the skills yet to kind of hone them in, and you're just happy to have business. And so a client will look at every home on the market if you let them. Now, I'm not saying force them into buying something, but what you have to corral them in with what they want and what they need. So you have to set their expectations. You have to really understand what they're looking for, ask questions, know how to provide value. But then, a good experienced agent, 10, 12 houses in a normal market when you're not writing 50 offers, 10, 12 houses, all we should look at, and we should write offers at that point. And if we're not, if I have new agents all the time, I've showed this person 50 houses across 3 years, and that happens, but on average, that should not happen. So you need to stop them, Because what they'll also do is they say they want to live in Piedmont schools under 300, and they're going to send you a house in Yukon for 325. And it's like, hold on. You said, corral them in. You said, and that's why I say maybe I'm not understanding something. It's my. Let's take a step back, because I thought you said this, and this, but this house is this. Are we changing that, or should we just mark it off the list? And so take a step back, say maybe I'm not understanding, and corral them, hold their own words against them, and say this is what you said you wanted. Same thing when they find a house that's perfect, but they don't want to make an offer. I've done this before, where it's like I'm a little confused. Like, help me, because you said this, and this has 99% of that. What do we not like about it? Because I thought you guys were going to write an offer on this. I'll be honest, and they'll just tell you, and then we can change what their expectations are at that point. We can hit the reset button. They'll say, well, we really feel like we need this, or I thought I wanted that, but I don't really care about that anymore. Because the more you look at houses, things change too. So don't be afraid to just hit pause, fall on the sorter a little bit, like maybe I'm not understanding. Because most of my clients look at like 10 or 12 houses and we have something under contract. So I feel like I'm not doing a good job right now. What am I missing? And then hit the reset button with them. So that's normally, the analysis paralysis is normally just fear of the next step. But buyers will do whatever you let them. So if you keep showing them houses, they'll keep showing houses. Also tell your clients to delete Zillow when you go under contract, so they don't keep looking. Okay, questions on the realtor piece? The biggest thing here is you gotta be friends with them. Be friends, be a good communicator. Good communicator is better than being right all the time or having all the answers. I've had agents that'll call me and just say, hey, just let you know, or text me, I'm still working on this. Love that. If I don't know what's going on the other end, it's infuriating. And I can't get a hold of you. I can be difficult to get a hold of as well, so I get it. But when working deals, communication's everything between realtors and clients and everything. Do you have something?
I was just going to throw in a firm rule I have is no preaching.
Okay. From the other realtor?
For myself.
Oh, you, okay.
Anybody. Like, it's just, like you start talking and they're trying to explain why, and then they start preaching, and it's like a 5-minute monologue.
Yeah.
It's like you lost me after about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And nobody likes being preached at.
Mm-mm.
And like, if you're the one doing it, it's probably hurting more than anything else. Even if it's all 100% valid.
Doesn't matter. It's just like, that's a form of arguing. It's like,
right.
I don't care. Like, why? Again, you're not going to change my mind. I used to think that when I was new. I was like, I'm just going to explain this to them. It's like
just, if they just knew.
If you just listen to me, you'd understand.
Right.
But no,
But they don't care.
they don't care. They have their thought. Yeah, there is no right. There is, it's all. So Shaq, again, we just had this deal close, and he'll probably be watching hopefully. But that happened. The other agent was, again, our buyer messed up something, but the other agent was lecturing him. And he finally, and this is the other thing too, is like, don't let people treat you like that too. I've had to tell an agent to stop yelling at me. And so don't hang up, be an adult, but it's like, this is not your house, this is not my house. Why are you yelling at me? And they normally reset themselves. But he told the other agent, like, I'm sorry, man, I get it, but I didn't call you to be lectured. And then that made him even more mad. But yeah, you're exactly right. You're not going to change their mind. It's not helpful. Remember what the goal is. The goal is to get the house closed. Now we want to make sure it's fair. We want to make sure everyone's treated properly. But arguing or preaching is not. That's not accomplishing the goal. Yeah, good addition. Okay, working with buyers. So a lot of this is kind of the same as working with sellers, but just different. It's flipped. Scenario is a little bit different. So when we're talking about price, because that's the first thing, what do you think we should offer? Hate that question because there's no right answer. And I don't advise telling your clients what to offer either, because that puts you in a really bad situation. If they offer too much or if they don't get it, it just puts you in a really tough situation. So what I say is, I can't really tell you because I can't really quantify the enjoyment of this house for you. So my price is different than your price, different than this person's price. But what I can do is tell you, if this seller had called me and asked me to list their home, here's what I'd recommend them listed at. That's how I phrase what I think fair market is. Does that make sense? So if I were the listing agent, I'd put it here. Now, we've been looking for 3 months and haven't found anything that's even close to what we like, and this is it. So should we go a little higher? Should we come in? Should we ask for the close? Should we be more aggressive? That's up to you to decide. The other thing I tell people, so that's how I give a fair market recommendation. If I was going to list it, this is what I'd list it at. And then I say, I hope all, okay, so that's a different piece. I forgot what my next point was. I hope all my clients call me back in 5 or 7 years to sell their home again. So I want to make sure we protect you financially, but in certain markets, we have to be more aggressive to get certain houses. So the other thing I say, that's what it was, make an offer that's not going to cause you to lose any sleep. I don't want you to lose sleep because you think, damn, I would have gone $3,000 more higher if I'd have known. And I don't want to lose any sleep because it's like, damn, we're broke now. We don't have any money. So what can you sleep with at night? That's kind of what I tell them. Because a lot of people are just afraid to go too high. But people don't think about, and this has happened, like, I let that one slip away. I would have gone $5,000 up if I'd have known that would have got it. And that emotionally affects buyers if they lose a house they wanted. So
That's exactly what I said.
yeah.
Verbatim.
What can you not lose sleep over? Yeah. What price? So again, here's what I think fair market is. But you have to decide what you think the home is worth. Whatever you want to offer, that's not going to lose sleep. We're still protected by the appraisal, so we'll know if we're just way out of the realm. But my appraisers are going to look at the same thing I'm going to look at, so we're going to get in the same ballpark. But that's kind of how I phrase what should I offer, is those two things. The next thing is a TRR. So again, this conversation needs to happen way before inspections. This needs to happen when you meet them. It needs to happen before the offer comes in. It needs to happen again when we're at the inspection. It needs to happen again right before we write a TRR. This conversation has to have to happen at least 5 times. And the conversation is, hey, in the inspection report, the inspector is going to turn this house upside down, look for everything that's not functioning as it was originally intended 70 years ago or whenever the home was built. So there's going to be a bunch of stuff on it. So what we care about is the 5 big ticket items, right? It's the roof, the foundation, heating and air, plumbing, electric. These are the things that every single buyer is going to ask for. It's reasonable for us to ask for. Everything else, and this is important, everything else is deferred maintenance. It's doors that stick, fans that wobble, toilets that are loose, windows that are fogged. You know, I want to get these things fixed, but I'm not going to lose a house over a $350 fogged window, right? $10,000 foundation repair, $20,000 roof, okay, we can walk away, we can negotiate these things. So this is what we're looking for. If you don't have this conversation, they're going to look at the laundry list of things that inspector puts on there, and they're going to say, holy crap, I'm paying $300,000 for all this? And none of it matters. None of it even gets repaired or fixed. It'll be on the next inspection report when they sell it. It doesn't matter. They're going to live in it for 10 years and not fix any of that stuff because it doesn't matter. Or maybe they will, I don't know. It's funny, when I was brand new in real estate, everyone's got like 9 things in their house they need to fix, and then they go around fixing them when they sell it. And I thought, that's so dumb. Why would you fix it for the next guy? And so when I was new in real estate, I went around fixing all the stupid stuff in my house, all the honey-dos that I didn't do. So, perspective. So have to have this conversation. The more you have it early on, the easier it is to influence them and to not lose the deal over something small or minor or over a couple of $100, right? You have to keep it in perspective. If you have this conversation after they're already freaked out over the list, that's when you have commission breath and you've lost all influence over them. They think you're just trying to get a deal and make them buy a house that's no good. Have to have this conversation early. Frame everything in terms of risk. This goes with buyer and seller. We'll talk about it again. So every decision they can make, the way you as an agent want to influence or provide information is what's the risk associated with this decision or this activity. So I want to ask for the roof to, or I want all the toilets to be tightened or loosened or whatever. And it's like, okay, we can ask for these things, but the more we ask for that's tedious and small, the more influence we lose over the major things. So you're explaining the risk associated with this decision. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm explaining the risk associated. Another thing that's really important when trying to influence someone is to tell stories about a past client who made the bad decision that they're about to make. I don't say it like that, but it's like, should we counter back and ask for more money or ask for this or ask for that? It's like, I had a client do that one time and here and da 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 da. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. And that client may exist or they may not exist, right? But you can influence them with a story. So rather than saying it's a bad idea because of this, this, and this, you can say, I had a client do that once, and then we had this, and then we had to deal with this.
They're not alive.
And they're, yeah, exactly. And their funeral was last, yeah, that's how bad it went. Yeah, they're doing time now. So stories influence people more, and it's a more direct way to be like, this is a bad idea, to tell stories. Again,
I tell the time about how I skipped the sewer scope on my own personal house.
yeah, exactly.
I sold from Hearth and Home
came out and found it.
Well, no, he didn't do it. I told him, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 4 years later, my husband was digging up the sewer line in
Yep.
the backyard.
Yep.
That we would have saw.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So same thing. It's like, one of the big things is during a TRR, sometimes buyers and sellers fight over who does the work. It's like, my guy can do it cheaper, so I want to do it. No, my guy can do it cheaper, I want to do it. And then it's like, as a third party, if I'm a seller, I want the work to be done after closing because I don't own it anymore. And if I'm a buyer, I want the work done before because I don't own it yet. And so I tell this story because my client wanted to do the sewer replacement himself. He said, I can get it done cheaper. The other guy's like, no, my father-in-law's brother's a plumber or whatever. I can blah, blah, blah. So we're like, okay, fine. We'll just credit you the money and you do it after. When they were digging it up, it collapsed, and they were just replacing the riser. When they were digging it up, it collapsed, had to replace the whole thing. If we had done it, we would have had to replace the whole thing. So if someone's fighting or pushing back, find stories in your experience or in your team or whatever, and explain that this is probably safer, or this happened with my client and they got stuck here. Stories will influence them, and especially people, this is scientifically proven, people value risk twice as much as they value gain. So it hurts more to lose money than it does to win money, right? They value risk twice as much, or loss twice as much as they value gain. So if you can phrase it in terms of what the risk associated is, you can influence what is best for them. Looking at too many houses, we kind of talked about that, stopping, saying, maybe I don't understand, write the offer even if it's terrible, get them over that hump of not knowing what to do, not knowing what's next. Good news, you won, right? So going back to the two things, what are the two things that have to happen in a negotiation? Get a coffee mug if you remember.
Be heard, and they have to think they won.
Bingo. You already have a coffee mug, so you don't get another one.
Be heard and feel like they won.
Yeah, there you go. You get a coffee mug now. So when you're presenting a counter with them, make it seem like an accomplishment. We asked for X closing and X price, and when we come back with a counter, say, I can't believe, I didn't think they'd come up this high on the closing costs. This is awesome. This is a huge win. Or the realtor told me there's no way they're coming below this number, and they did it. So that's awesome. So however you sell them this thing that they just got, they have to feel like they've won. Doesn't change what happened, changes how they feel about it. And they have to feel like they've been heard, and they have to feel like they've won. So sell everything you give to your client has to be sold to them. Regardless of your relationship with them or anything, they have to buy what you're giving them. Does that make sense? So this is great news. They told me on the phone they didn't think they'd do it, and then she actually came back and did it. This is cool. So whatever it might be, sell it to them, make them feel like they've got something. Save personal property for later. Link just had a deal where they were wanting to buy a bunch of the couch and furniture and stuff like that, but they were still negotiating the price. They hadn't even gotten under contract yet. And I said, stop talking about any personal property right now. Get the house under contract, get through inspections, then we can talk about personal property. All it does is muddy the water for everything else. Because the roof will go bad and they'll be like, well, I gave him that couch at a 20% discount. I'm not fixing the roof. And it's like, I'm taking the couch back then. And what the heck? He already agreed to the couch. It's like, so dumb. And people get so emotional through this process. So save personal property for later. You got a good one there?
On that note, I have to say, we just had inspections today, but tell your seller to leave before people get there because this seller
They just start talking.
He told
Yeah.
me way too much, and so on the offer, I asked for everything,
Ah.
and I offered almost 15,000 less.
It's
Yeah,
why
we got-
sellers
we
shouldn't
got
sell their house.
everything.
Yeah, that's why sellers shouldn't sell
We
their
got
house.
everything but the patio furniture on the front because it was sentimental.
Yeah.
That was the only thing he said no to, and I was like,
That's funny. That's
so
the
go with
other.
seller there.
That's the other thing. My mentor would always, anytime someone asks for something, because he's the same way. Like, you're buying a house. We're not going shopping right now. You like it? Find out where they got it. Go buy it. But anytime someone asks for something, that's what he always says is their grandma gave it to them. She passed away, and they kind of want to keep it. And so, like that couch, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So that's what he is like. It's family heirloom. Grandma gave whatever. Like she died on it. Yeah. She died on it. That's a really good one. Yeah, they've been looking to get rid of that. Yeah, I'm actually glad you asked because someone died on it. You don't care about the blood stains? So yeah, personal property, leave it off. Deal with it later if you deal with it at all, but tell your clients, like, just You're buying someone else's used stuff. You're going to get like a 20% discount, but it's used and broken and whatever. It's like, just go buy something if you want it. So personal property is no good. I think that's it. Questions, thoughts on buyers?
On looking at too many houses,
Uh-huh.
sometimes, and I say this a lot of times at open houses, with somebody that says that they're already represented by somebody else, and I've had people think that they weren't doing their job very well.
Yeah.
And you might, I don't know what you think about this, but I tell people, you know, the great thing about the Oklahoma real estate purchase contract is, after you make an offer, you have 14 days for investigations, inspections, and reviews is what they call it, and carte blanche, you can bow out. So making an offer today on this property, it really still isn't any.
Low commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just explaining that to him makes him feel more comfortable with you think?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
And we're maybe making an offer.
Yeah, and that's the same thing, you know, when I go through, okay, I thought I hit it. When I go through like my buyer presentation, I talk about how simple the offer is. You know, it's 11 pages, it says 5 things we can get out of it for any reason in the first 14 days. Like, it's so simple, nothing to be worried about here. I said this last time in our contract class. If you do want to get out of a contract, make sure it's for a reason that is acceptable. And as long as you phrase it properly, almost anything is acceptable. You just have to phrase it properly. So if you're trying to get out of a contract, just ask someone to make sure, because you can't just say they don't want it anymore. It's not how it works. Or they found another property. That's the worst one. You'll get in trouble. So yeah, that's good, Graham. Okay, sellers. So again, negotiating starts at the beginning of the conversation when you first meet them. So hardest conversations you have to have with sellers is, hadn't sold yet, no showings, need to drop the price, right? So you set those expectations up front at the very beginning. And in our Working with Sellers class, I go through this whole thing on how to do homework pre-market to set expectations to make your job easy when it's on the market. But these are the conversations we have: pricing, conditions, showings, and offers. This is how I can talk for an hour about this, but essentially the home is worth what someone else is willing to pay for it. We're going to put it in a ballpark based on what other people have bought other homes for, but we're just guessing. We'll put it on the market, and the market will dictate the price. So we're going to determine if we're priced right, if we're getting showings and offers. And if we're not getting enough showings, or we're not getting offers within X days of the averages, then we need to make an adjustment. But I show them all the numbers. This zip code average days on market is 30. The average shows to pending in this zip code is 15. We need a showing every other day if we're going to sell in the average days on time, right? So now when 2 weeks goes by, if we don't have 7 showings, I can talk to them. Hey, remember, I said we needed 2. We're not getting it. I think the market's telling us we need to make an adjustment. Or be okay waiting. That's fine too. But then you're giving them data to make a decision. The worst thing you can do as a seller or as a listing agent is say, I feel like we need to drop the price. Like, I don't care how you feel. Like, are you not doing a good job? Why is it not selling? And I'll show you. We've put it on the internet. It's in all corners of the internet. We priced it right. We marketed it right. Now the market is telling us that we're not priced correctly. So if you can explain it to them up front, show them data up front, and then show them data each week, the conversation to drop the price is easy. You do it right, and sellers will start asking you, should we drop the price this week? And you start having much easier conversations. You can control your listings much better. And you're not trying to just like sell it cheap, trying to get the home sold. We all understand that overpriced homes don't sell. So we'll go through that. Same thing, good news, you won. If we get a counter back, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they conceded on the closing costs. The realtor said they have to have it and they came down. This is huge. I didn't think we'd get this. You know, whatever it might, phrase it so that they feel like they've won something. Even though they've come down, even though we dropped the price and given them closing and blah, 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 we got them up a little bit. We won, right? We're pulling back a little bit. They have to feel like they've won. Frame everything in terms of risk. Same thing. We can counter back at this. We can say no with this, but here's what they can do per the contract. Here's what could happen if we don't fix this. We have to put it on the inspection. If it busts, every single buyer is going to want to ask why it busts, and I can't lie to them. And all, you know, so explain the risk of making every single decision. Whatever fork in the road we're at, explain to them what the risk associated with each decision is. Again, people value loss twice as much as they value gain. So if you can frame it in terms of risk, you're going to get more influence over the person. ABC, always be countering. never let a negotiation die in your court. Always counter something. I've had a deal that we negotiated for about it was like 16 days. And at the end, we were countering $50 back and forth to each other. Both stubborn ass people wouldn't get it done. But we kept going back and forth until we were about $600 apart from each other. And finally someone was like, okay, let's do it. And so just don't let it die. If you get an offer, it's a terrible offer. That buyer took time. Realtor drew it up. Buyer looked at it. Buyer signed it. They want it. They came and looked at it. They want the house. Counter it. Even if it's terrible. Counter it $500, but counter something. I've always said you can find out where someone wants to end up by their first counter offer. First offer is a crapshoot. They could just be throwing whatever out. Their uncle told them to offer 80% of the value or whatever, right? Who knows why. But the first counter offer will tell you how serious they are. It tells you where they want to end up at and what they're doing. So you can really tell a lot by their first counter offer. But never, ever, 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 ever let it die in your court. Come back at $500, $100, $150. Come back at something. Never let it die, because buyers always come up higher than they say they will. Sellers always go lower than they say they will. Not every offer is going to get negotiated to completion, but vast majority of them will if you are cooperative, communicate well, explain the risks associated with decisions, and always counter. We always get closer and closer and closer. So very important. Always counter. Never, buyer or seller, never let it die in your court. It's time to start delivering kegs.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up. Yeah. Rock, holler at him, tell him to bring. We just need a pony. Go over the top. So has everyone ever heard of the takeaway close? I'm a big fan of the takeaway. I know Graham's a fan of the takeaway close. So go over the top. So if someone's being silly, because sometimes we've been in a situation where it's like we're $500 apart on a $500,000 house and we just can't figure it out, right? Where it's like they're being a little silly. Look at the whole picture, figure out we're really winning, or whatever it might be. But sometimes the takeaway close is like, just blow up the deal. Just say, you know what? If you're not comfortable, I'm just going to send a release. If you're not comfortable, I'm not comfortable. I don't want to do it. I'm going to let them know we're out. We don't want it anymore. We're done. And then normally the other person's like, well, hold on. Like, I still want it. Like, let's just try to, it brings them back to the table. But when they're being stubborn or when they're stuck on something, just going over the top and blowing it up, a lot of times they'll reel themselves back in. There's some kind of psychology dynamic or whatever it's called, where like when someone goes crazy, the other person feels like they have to calm down. And so if you're ever in a relationship, someone's hot, the other person's like calming down, and sometimes it's different. But if you go aggressive and hot, normally they'll try to be like, hold on, no, we don't want to do that. So the takeaway close is very big. If you take it off the table, tell them we don't want it, tell them I'm going to email them and say we're done. If you're not comfortable, I'm not comfortable, I'll just tell them we're done. And then normally they'll come back to the table and either concede or counter, right? And at least now we're countering again. We're closing the gap. So the takeaway close is a good way to get a seller or a buyer just kind of off the best and final. It's like, I'm not going $1 over this. The takeaway close can sometimes get them a little bit further. That's another thing. I don't think I have this written anywhere. Never tell the other side this is their highest or this is their lowest. One, it's not. They'll do more. But two, it just kills negotiations. Well, if that's your highest, well, I'm not going to, he's being unreasonable. I'm out. So never tell the other side it's their highest. And if they say it's your highest, don't tell your client, because it's not. They'll come down, they'll come up. They always do. We're negotiating. We're closing the gap, right? Remember, don't repeat everything the other person says.
So what would you say?
Nothing. I say, here's their counter offer.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they're going to make a decision. They're going to counter back. And they can either say yes or no. But if we countered, if the other agent's doing their job, we're going to come back. Now, again, if we're 20 grand apart, there's differences, but it doesn't serve the goal of the negotiation to tell someone this is their best. It cuts it off. It ends it. And it's never over. Always counter, always close the gap. People always come up or down, lower or higher than they say they will. Always. So just you don't have to share that information that this is their best and final.
Do you give any different advice in that same scenario when sellers are, if it is multiple offers and it's they're asking for highest and best from everybody?
Yeah,
I
multiple
feel like
offers.
you lose your.
Yes, multiple offers is outside. most of what we're talking about is outside of multiple offers. Multiple offers is a crapshoot. We don't know what's going on. We have agents get multiple offers and then start countering people, and it's like you just kind of throwing a Hail Mary a little bit, and like, here's our best. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it if I lose this house. I mean, it's funny. About a month ago, we're not even looking for a home, but my wife saw a home, and so we made an offer, and it was we went, yeah, right, yeah, it was yeah, like it happens, and so made an offer. She said we have multiple offers. We weren't even looking, and so we went 40 grand over. Still lost it to a cash buyer. So you just have no idea what's going to happen. And then like 30 days later, my parents, same thing, not looking. I mean, they've been like looking for like 3 years, so they're not looking. And love this house, Brett, write this offer for me. Wrote it. I think we went 5 or 6 grand over. It was a cash offer. No, lost it. So it's just like everything's out the door. Just like be aggressive as you can with multiple offers. There are some strategies, like I like to offer odd numbers in a multiple offer because I've won a multiple offer. Escalation clauses are good because people just forgot what those are now. I've won 2 multiple offers recently, our team has, by writing an escalation clause, because every offer had it in 2021, and then everyone's forgot what they are now, so we're winning deals with it. And then offer an odd number, so instead of offering $200,000, offer $200,750, and I've won a multiple offer deal by beating it by $750 the next offer. So little things give you a tiny edge, but no, it's just be aggressive. Don't get cute. You want the house or not is kind of the strategy with multiple offers. Yeah, like don't wait in multiple offer. Like there's no like time's not your friend in multiple offers. All that stuff is, you just kind of have to put your best foot forward and hope that you get it. Always ask if the listing agent's representing any of the buyers too. That's good to know, because
Yeah, that one blew up my face the other day. I will now remember.
I always ask, because you gotta be careful because you don't want to put that thought in your buyer's mind, but you know that you're in a tough spot.
She tells you to get offers in by 6 o'clock and it goes pending at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Representing the buyer, you know exactly what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately,
She's
so
on my list.
yeah, yeah. Yes, so the market has spoken. This is kind of when we receive an offer and it maybe not what they want, or we're negotiating, it's not where they want to be. This is kind of where I can let them know that, again, remember when I said in the listing appointment when we first met, we're guessing on price based on what's sold in the past, but no house is the same. And so we really let the market dictate the price. We've been on the market for X days. We've had X people walk through it. We've received this offer. So this is the market's telling us this is what it deems its value is. Now we can counter it, we can get as much as we can out of it, but saying no to this offer and putting it back on the market, the risk is now only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 buyers a week or a month are entering the market. We're just dependent on some unicorn to fly in from out of town and buy this house now, because everyone has seen the house that's in the market right now. So if you get an offer that's not great and they're not wanting to counter it, or we've countered it and we're kind of done and there's a gap, sometimes you can let them know that we've done all the things. Priced it right, marketed it right, home looks great. It's gone out to every corner of the internet. It's impossible for a buyer to have not seen it. We've had 20 showings. This is what we've been presented. So this is the market telling us what they deem it's worth. Now we can try to get more, but let's work what's in front of us. Does that make sense? You can have that conversation, and it's because again they think there's a unicorn out there that's going to come in, give them full price, no inspection, cash, no contingency. It's like, where's that guy? So
3 years ago.
yeah. You need a time machine.
Sometimes if you have new properties that are relatively new, you can turn them into a multiple offer even in this market.
Yeah. We're still getting multiple offers.
Yeah, it goes back to your point of make them wait 24 hours, don't rush into it.
Yeah.
Because generally most agents get 24-hour notice, or they'll call you and be like, hey, I'm going to send you an offer. And you're like, all right, can you give me a little bit of time? They're working, they're busy with kids, whatever.
Yeah.
Can you make sure I get time so I can talk to them? That gives you time expecting another one.
Mhm.
And then you can be like, well, I did get another one. They're happy with it. You know ahead of time. They're happy with it. I got another offer. Then
Yeah.
it turns into a multiple offer.
Being a seller, time is almost always on your side. As a seller, as a buyer, you want to be quicker, but as a seller, drag your feet and go. That's what I tell clients too. If we're like 5, 10 grand apart and like they want to counter It's like, we can do that, but we leave the door open for 24 more hours for someone else to come in and swoop out from under us. And then we lose all negotiation leverage. Now we're coming in at full price when we could have we're trying to save $2,000. It's going to cost us $10,000. That's the risk associated with this decision, right? Or I had a client one time, they wanted to save $2,500 and ended up losing the house, right? Oh, I don't want to be that guy. That guy's dead now, right? He, went on a shooting rampage and he went nuts. So you don't want to be that guy. So tell story, risk associated. That's how you can get people kind of get them out of their own way, right? Okay, last slide, then we're done. Just a couple extra tips, tricks that I like to use. Closing cost or price. So when I receive an offer as a listing agent and it's like $8,000 below list price and they want $10,000 in closing, you're not going to get both. Which one do you want? But I always call the other agent back before I even talk to my seller normally and say, hey, it's a great offer, really appreciate it. I think they're going to be pumped to look at it. I don't know if they can come that far down though. What's more important to your buyer? Do they need the closing costs or would they rather have a lower price? And they'll almost always tell you they don't care about closing or they need it or whatever. And what you're kind of doing is you're kind of letting them formulate their own counteroffer. I'm going to take what they tell me, go to my seller and say I talked with them. They said they need that $10,000. They don't have it. Okay, fine. I'm just going to come back up to list price now. Great. They told us they needed $10,000. We're giving them $10,000, but now we're making it work for us. Does that make sense? So anytime you receive an offer, call the agent and say, what's more important, price or closing? Because every offer has closing costs now, almost, basically. So what's more important, closing cost or price? Let them tell you what's most important, then submit that counteroffer back to them. I know it seems like, so labeling the negative, I've used this a couple times to get the other realtor back kind of to the neutral mindset, and I've used it a couple times with buyers because I'm trying to get them to like just accept this, just accept this as it's called Label the Negative. It's from Chris Voss. And you're supposed to state the worst thing that they could be thinking about you, right? So, hey, I know it seems like, so like what I was talking to the other realtor about, it's like, I know it seems like our buyers are being greedy here, but they just, when they bought their last house, they got burned by this. And so they're nervous. And so in their head, they're thinking this greedy buyer's trying to take me for everything I got, or this greedy seller, or this whatever. Same thing, like saying, I know it seems like we're lowballing you, but my guy wants to put in this and this, or has to spend this, or he's really concerned about this, right? And you're saying what they're going to be thinking, and you're diffusing that negative action in them. So another one I liked was, I know this might come across like I'm just trying to get a quick sale, but sometimes when you put a house on the market overpriced, we lose out on a lot of good buyers that would have come through. So in their mind, they're thinking, Brett just wants a quick commission, so he's going to list it at 90% of its value to get a quick sale. So saying these things like, if they want 500, it's only worth 450. I know it might seem like we're just trying to get a quick sale, but based on comps, what we're seeing and where the market's trending the last 30 days or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then bring it back into what they care about. And I know you're wanting to get into that new home by July. I know it might seem like, but blah, 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 your goal, right? Seem like my recommendation, your goal, right? See how kind of, you can frame it to where they're not like, God, Erin always, no wonder she sells houses so fast. She rips off her sellers. So that's right. Yep. That's it. Yeah. I sell fast at your expense. So labeling the negative will diffuse the fact, and it's like, no, you're not being greedy. I get it. No, I understand. I understand it needs this, whatever. But when you can label it, it diffuses it, and they're not negative anymore. They're not mad at you because of it. So I know it might seem like is kind of a good way to start. Start that, whatever you know they're thinking. This is a good one too. It's easy for me to spend your money. So when we're talking about TRRs, fixing TRRs or whatever, pricing coming up, whatever it might be in money, I tell my clients all the time, I'm going to try to phrase it exactly. It all depends on the situation. What I try to say is, my job is to get this deal closed and make it a fair transaction for everyone. I do it every day. This is new to you. If at any point I'm moving too fast or you're confused or you're not comfortable with anything, stop me and ask me. Give them permission to say no to you. Otherwise, it's going to fester up and they're just going to freak out and they're going to explode at some point and blow the deal up. Give them permission to stop and ask questions. The next thing is also, I know it's really easy for me to spend your money, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to make sure, based on market averages, based on inspections, prices, industry norms, this is what we're seeing happen in the market. So I really want him to go tighten all those toilets and fix all the wobbly fans. I know it seems like I'm spending your money, or it's really easy for me to spend your money, but if we go to another house, that house is gonna have wobbly toilets and wobbly fans too. The next buyer probably isn't gonna ask for it. So we might be trying to aim at a small target, right? So if you can explain that, you know, again, I'm not just trying to do, it might seem like I'm just trying to get a commission by telling you to accept these wobbly toilets and these wobbly fans. And I know it's really easy for me to spend your money, but based on what's going on in the market, this is what you can expect basically at any other house we go to down the street or whatever it might be. So by just kind of acknowledging that I know my advice is costing you money, but remember, my goal is to get across the finish line and get you the home you love, or get you into your next home, or get this house sold, or whatever it might be. And then you use their motivation along with it. My goal, you said you had to be out of here by X date. You said you wanted to do this, you wanted to whatever. I know it's easy for me to spend your money, but this is what we're seeing. And if you're trying to accomplish this goal, I think we need to do that. So, did you have something? Oh, I thought you raised your hand. So again, it's this. Oh, okay. So this is kind of a sub bullet of, I know it seems like, but calling out the fact that I know my decisions are going to cost you money. Calling that out, so that they can stop you if you're uncomfortable. That's very important. So.
With that, I've said something pretty similar to that for a long time to customers. I'll let them know I respect your money.
Yeah, that's
You know,
good.
Almost as much as you do.
Almost, yeah.
But like if we're looking at paying points or not, or you know, two different decisions that have different amounts of money that they're spending, I'll run the numbers, and sometimes one's a slam dunk, sometimes one's not. But when it's on the fence or they shouldn't do it, you know, they shouldn't refinance, they shouldn't pay points. It's like, I'll do this for you, but I respect your money, so I want you to let you know, like, I wouldn't do this, or whatnot. And I've heard a lot of people say, you know, I've not done many deals for people because it wasn't a good use of their money, but they really respected that and came back later down the road because I didn't convince them that it was a good deal.
Right.
And so kind of similar to this.
Yep. Exactly.
As well.
Yeah. And you're just you're making light of the fact that this is costing a lot. These decisions have, you know, for the real estate agent, they have very little consequence to us, right? We get the deal done, we get our commission check. To them, these are thousands or tens of thousands of dollars that have to be incurred based on this decision that we influence them to make. So, one, make sure you're looking out for their best interest, but two, call it out for what it is. I know this costs money, but again, my job is to guide you and get you to the finish line. So if at any point you're uncomfortable, if we're moving too fast, stop me. Because I just want you to make sure you know what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on moving all the pieces so that we can get to the finish line. And it's your job to tell me if you're uncomfortable. The other thing I always tell people too, if you do work with friends or family, I hate working with friends or family. It's silly because the industry tells you sphere of influence, that's great. I don't like working with friends or family. I've done it a couple times. I don't like it. But I always, at the very beginning, I say I would rather be your friend than your realtor, or I'd rather be your cousin than your realtor, or whatever. So if at any point you're unhappy, you're not you want to change anything at all, you have full permission to fire me. I'm not going to get mad at you. If you give them permission, they won't. But if you don't, they're going to be like, I have to use this person because they're my realtor, or because they're my cousin, and blah, blah, blah. And then so framing it correctly up front, it just resets the frame for the whole rest of the negotiate, or the whole rest of the transaction. So that's all I got, guys. Any other questions, thoughts, topics?
If someone calls you and says closing costs or price, what do you answer? Because you know they're doing the trick to you.
Yeah, well, no, it depends. It's not a trick. It's like my guy needs 10 grand in closing, so he needs closing.
So, like you would say that back?
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever they need.
Yeah, you're
Because
like-
most buyers are it's not a trick. It's just it's asking questions to understand. Why did you write this offer? I know you need closing. Okay, so you also came 10 grand off price because your uncle told you to, or whatever, right? Or I saw it on HGTV, and that's what you do. You know, I don't. So I don't know. So okay, I appreciate that. I know you need this, so we're going to go back over here. So yeah, not necessarily a trick. I called it a trick. It's not a trick. It's a tip. But no, it's just I'm seeking to understand, and I'm giving them what they want. I mean, obviously they want it cheaper, but they need closing. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll just tell. I usually don't do it up front. I wait for them to counter, but I'll say we have to have this. So I think we're going to be a little more lenient on the price than we are here. So yeah, just making sure we're all on the same page to negotiate, get it done.
For those of us that are okay with it, can we do a tricks class?
Yeah. Ways to get one over on my client or the other realtor.
We're not gonna record that one.
Yeah, that one will be, yeah. Yeah, I'm super okay with tricks. Yeah, good question. Very good question. All right, guys. Thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I didn't mean to.
As far as price, like in that